Hi, let me ask you a question. Do your wrists hurt when you do yoga, or do you suffer from an old wrist injury that keeps you from enjoying yoga? If that is you, then you're in the right place. My name is Christine. I'm a yoga and wellness coach, and many of my clients suffer from either weak wrists or their wrists just don't feel great when they're doing yoga. So let me show you some modifications you can do for common yoga poses, and then let me also show you my tricks for ways to prevent from any injuries to your wrists when you're doing yoga. So let's get started. Some of the more common yoga poses that put a lot of weight on your hands include just starting out, for example, in tabletop. This alone might be uncomfortable for some of you because it puts quite some weight onto your wrists, and also because of the angle at which you're placing the weight onto your wrist. So avoid that. You could have put your knuckles down as an alternative. You could also put your forearms down onto the mat. But what I don't like about this is then your spine is pointing downwards rather than being parallel to the ground. And so to avoid that, use a set of blocks, put them on the middle height, and rest your forearms on the blocks. Now you're in the perfect tabletop position, and there is zero weight on your wrists. What about downward facing dog? Downward facing dog puts a lot of weight onto your hands. So one alternative could be using blocks again. This time put them on the lowest height and place your hands right on the block. What this does, it brings the mat closer to you, which means more of the weight is in your legs rather than your hands. So this might be helpful for you. Another alternative could be, instead of downward facing dog where you're on your hands, come down onto your forearms into dolphin pose. Once again, this takes the weight off your wrists and achieves the same results. And then finally, if high plank puts too much weight onto your wrists, come down onto a forearm plank. Once again, there is no weight on your wrists. You will feel much happier doing it this way. So these are the modifications you can do in any yoga class. But I also want to teach you how to position your hands on the mat to prevent any future injuries, and also hopefully lessen the weight you're feeling in those wrists when you're doing yoga. So the important aspect is you want to spread your fingers out wide rather than having them together. So spread them out wide. And then imagine that your two index fingers are parallel to each other. And this is how you want to place your hands onto the mat. So your hands about shoulder width apart, your fingers are spread out wide, and you're placing them down. So the index fingers are pointing straight ahead and are parallel to each other. And then very importantly, I want you to press through all parts of your hand, but very importantly, onto your index finger and the thumb area. That is where your weight-bearing bones are. What you don't want to do in yoga is place the weight on the outside of your hand, but really focus on pressing down that index finger and thumb area. So we have nice spread out fingers. Index fingers are parallel to each other, and I'm pressing through both the index finger and thumb and the rest of the hand. Another thing you could try is, instead of the traditional way is having your index finger parallel to each other, what if you turned your hands out a bit? See how that feels for you. It might feel really good if you are having some wrist issues. So I suggest you give that a try. So now that you know how to position your hands so they take as much as the weight in the most easy way possible, it's also important that you warm up your wrists before any yoga class. So there are very simple ways of warming up your wrists. Let's start by just doing a stop sign with your hand, and then using the other hand to draw the fingers and the thumb towards you. and hold that stretch. Then point the fingers down. Use the opposite hand again to draw those fingers towards you. And hold the stretch. And release. And then, of course, do the same on the other hand. And then make fists with both hands and circle those fists. And then reverse direction. And then finally, straighten your arms, keep the fists, turn the fists down, and then rotate your fists out to the outside. This not only warms up your wrists, but also your forearms. So, those were some simple warm-up exercises for your wrists, how to place your wrists on the ground, and some modification you can do in any yoga class. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you will see me again next time. Bye.